They got it. Good. Are we there? Awesome. Welcome, everybody, to the first city council work session of 2020. It's hard to believe. It's already 2026. We have 4 items on the agenda tonight. Joyce Chain's going to give us an update on elementary school crossing assessment study. We have a transportation system plan performance measure option update. Joy, looks like you get that one too. And discussion on the contract review for the city attorney and our municipal judge. And I'll actually lead that since they work for us as a city council. So,
you're off the hook.
You're off the hook. Yeah.
My name was on the agenda for it, yes.
Yeah, Craig cornered me on that one today, which is fine. That's awesome. So anyways, it's I think we're ready to go. Joy.
Yes.
By the way.
Well, thank you. Happy New Year to everyone. So good evening, Mayor Rosner and councilors. Again, tonight, we're going to kickstart with the Sherwood School Zone Crossing Assessment, and then ultimately move into the transportation system plan. I would just want to introduce a couple of key individuals at the table. So Joy Chang, I'm the project manager for the TSP update, but also the Safe Routes School Coordinator. To my right is Nick Rose from Kittleson and Associates. Then we have Brady Strutz from Sherwood School District. We also have Phil Worth with Kittleson and Associate, and he is the project manager for Kittleson for the TSP update. And then we have, of course, city staff, Rich Sattler, Jason Waters here to further assist us. So with that, I will hand it off to Nick, but I do want to let you know, this is again the 4th time we have met in regards to this study, and also to refresh you that we did actually present this to the Traffic Safety Board back in August of last year. And overall, there was support from the board as far as in regards to the study. So yeah, that's pretty much it.
Awesome. Are we starting off where we left off last time? Because remember, we didn't get through all of them last time, right? All of us.
Well, the very first meeting, we got through all of them.
Right.
And then the second and the third meeting, we focused on Hawks View just because of the school district, the administration.
Yeah.
Administration, I think, and the signal there.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Great, yeah, thanks, Joy. And also just to clarify that question too, so we originally looked at 3 schools, Hawksview, Ridges, and Archer Glen. Ridges, specifically Edie Road, we discussed it's a county facility, so the city doesn't have full control over the ultimate recommendations on Edie, but would be a key partner in the crossing facility that ultimately turns out to be. Edie's also planned for a roadway improvement project. So there's quite a few moving parts with the Edie Ridges component. So that one is a little bit unique. We kind of sort of placed off to the side tonight. Everything we talked about tonight related to Archer Glen and Hawksview, it's sort of the same approach and sort of policy is kind of, I think, a term we'll be talking about in how we ultimately plan for these facilities consistently going forward, which should be a nice segue into the TSP element of tonight's work session.
Can I apologize, just going back to Edie Road real quick, and maybe this is a question for Eric. Because we have a planning project we're working with on the county, so I'm assuming whatever we resolve comes out of this, that we'll be working with the county, hopefully to implement similar standards.
Yeah, and not to get, we don't need to get too much in the weeds now, but the city council has not executed the IGA. We have not executed the IGA for PV done for Overwood Road. What's typical of a MISTIP project is the county is gonna do the basics, pavement, sidewalk, etc. Any additional enhancements, the way that they've set up MISTIP for now is that responsible for those costs for enhanced crossings. So just keep that in mind, and it's not saying we can't negotiate with the county, but that's what's in the draft IGA right.
Okay, awesome, thank you. Great.
So just a little bit of a recap of the work that's been performed to date and the feedback you all have provided us. So we initially conducted the school crossing evaluation and technical analysis. That was back in May of last year, 2025. And the findings from that memorandum were based on state and national guidance. And that was pointing towards the rectangular rapid flashing beacon. What we heard from you all, from council, and even sort of from coordination with the school district and supporting the recommendations is that there's a preference for a signal compared to a rectangular rapid flashing beacon, specifically because it's in close proximity to a school. So what we heard is we want something more than flashing yellow lights. We'd like a signal that requires you to stop, a red indication. So that's great. We also heard that there's a preference to keep the existing signal in front of the school district, so that will be maintained. And then we've also heard that I've alluded to already that rather than having 3 work sessions to talk about enhanced crossings, maybe going forward, we could develop a policy that sets a consistent kind of framework that the city can implement for all enhanced crossing studies and recommendations going forward. And so tonight, we are coming back to you with hopefully our final and revised recommendations. That's to maintain the existing signal in front of the school district building and to advance the signal recommendation with additional operational analysis as part of the design phase, that being the next phase for these crossing locations. We did include this slide here just to, again, revisit the differences and kind of terminology of the devices we are talking about. So the rectangular rapid flashing beacon, this is most common for used on 2 to 3 travel lane roadways at relatively lower speeds, 35 miles an hour or lower. And the cost of these typically ranges from $50,000 to $100,000, can depend on the power source, solar, tie-in to existing power.
Wrong business, holy cow.
Yeah.
Oh, it's nothing for another conversation, but the cost of all this is ridiculous.
The pedestrian hybrid beacon, we've been kind of just using the term signal here as well when we talk about pedestrian hybrid beacon, same with half signal, but pedestrian hybrid beacon is more commonly used for crossings when you're crossing 4 or more travel lanes on larger facilities, 40 miles an hour or greater. The cost of these is typically $400,000 to $600,000.
Is that what we're getting on Kimbrough?
Yeah.
Or at Kimbrough, something.
And then the last device, the least common, this is actually a picture of the signal in front of the school district building. This is what you'd call a half signal. It's pretty much a traditional signal that you'd see at a symmetrical intersection, but it's only serving through movement in one direction. These are less common mainly because they're conflicting with the manual on uniform traffic control devices, mostly because the pedestrian hybrid beacon device here is, I'll say, more superior. There's more research to support it. It's specifically for crossings, the half signal. There's a little bit, it's kind of like they existed before the pedestrian hybrid beacon was even a device. And the half signal, the cost comparison to the pedestrian hybrid beacon, they're essentially the same, or they are the same. Any questions on the different devices? We'll just have one more slide. And
So-
we can open it up to some.
So the PHB, it looks like it's only red lights.
So
right.
the two on it
In the
will,
middle here where
Yeah.
there's only red lights, right? There's no green and yellow.
It'll be green, then yellow, then red.
there's no green.
Right, there's no green?
There's no green. So yeah, the last bullet for each of these, I kind of just skimmed over them, but when for the rectangular rapid flashing beacon and the pedestrian hybrid beacon, when they're just idling out there's no indication. They rest in a dark phase.
Okay,
The pedestrian hybrid beacon, when a pedestrian goes and pushes the button, it will start flashing yellow and then it will hold a red phase. The half signal is more of that traditional signal. It rests in a green phase like your traditional traffic signal. And when a button is pushed, it would then go yellow to red.
okay, because I thought, and I may be misremembering, but I thought that part of the concern was with the left one, that there's kind of an eye blindness that people get after a while where they're not used to looking over to the side for those flashing beacons, and so whereas this one, the half signal, even though it's not as commonly used, you're always looking at those signals, and so I'm just, does this hybrid, does it address that by you said there's more research, so I
Yeah,
assume that it says it catches the eye more, and it makes people pay attention, and you don't get blind to it, or?
Yeah, the signal heads themselves on the pedestrian hybrid beacon, they are essentially located in the same location as your traditional
Okay.
signal head would be. So the user recognition and where you'd be looking for an indication as a driver subconsciously is all in the same place.
Okay. All right.
Just to follow on that, and I'm not a traffic engineer, or will I claim to be one, but the flashing yellow before it goes red, I mean, typically when I see a flashing yellow, it just means use caution. It doesn't mean, okay, get ready to stop. Are there issues with that? I mean, obviously, as the community gets used to it, they know, but flashing yellow to me is, oh, I just need to pay more attention. It's not that's about to turn red signal.
Yeah, I'm not aware of any issues with the flashing yellow then to red. I think it's intended to say slow down, yield, and now stop.
Similar to like when I'm coming down 12th and Sherwood and I want to turn on Oregon Street, turn left on Oregon Street. I will get the flashing yellow and I can turn when it's safely to these people, but then eventually it turns red and I have to stop.
Maybe it's not an issue. It's just, yeah.
I've just got one more slide and then we can open it back up to discussion. So next steps and kind of our final recommendation here is to conclude this planning report with the recommendation to advance the pedestrian hybrid beacon as part of the future design phases. That being for Hawksview and Archer Glen, it can continue to be explored as part of Ridges and the Edie Road, but that, as we've talked about, is a little bit separate. We also recommend that once funding is secured and timelines are a bit more clear, to conduct an operational analysis as part of the design phase to determine what the potential queuing or safety in-process traffic, meaning is there new development in the area that's bringing more traffic to the system that could, the travel patterns could change with the implementation of these signals as they're constructed, as well as, if adjacent intersections are improved from a stop controlled intersection to a signalized intersection. So once there's a bit more certainty and timing on when these devices would be constructed, we recommend conducting essentially a traffic study, operational analysis to look at the impacts, if any.
But on Sherwood Boulevard, I would not support spending $1 because, yeah, it's gonna impact it. Don't care. I mean, it already does. You already have the traffic already stops on that road all the time, every aspect of it during the school hours. So adding this is not gonna, it's a waste of money.
It becomes traffic versus pedestrian safety in my mind, right? I kind of agree with what you're saying, Keith, that being cognizant of the impacts in other intersections obviously is important to do. At most, my opinion, something very limited, we don't have to go into a full-blown study because we're just trying to protect our kids, and keeping in mind that in our city, we have one school-age kid per household, and we're dense, very dense, so the kids and the pedestrians are priority. So
Just call this down.
we're not dense in that way, Ken.
So are you saying your recommendation at Hawksview about pedestrian hydrant in place of the one that's up there?
No, we're gonna maintain.
We're gonna leave that one there.
The
half
The
light.
half signal in front of the school district, and then this pedestrian hybrid beacon would be replacing the flashing yellow beacon directly in front of the school,
Okay.
closest to the intersection of Third and behind.
So then they'll have that 3-4-way stop. And then however many feet away, they have a full stop if there's somebody walking. And then they have the
Half point.
Half signal.
half signal.
Yeah, so
Stop,
really,
stop,
yeah,
stop. Keeps them slowed down through school.
yeah,
Cause really those two. That one. Would only turn red if somebody pushed the button.
Yep.
So when school's in session, there's not a bunch of kids out, traffic will flow.
right.
And your recommendation is a analysis. What does that look like?
So the operational analysis.
Yes.
Yeah, that would essentially be today where we're talking about the pedestrian hybrid beacon directly in front of the school where there's a crossing today. It is not a signal today.
Mhm.
So we would look at the scenario of if you constructed this, how does that traffic queuing build up? So it's actually a model essentially of particular queuing operations, time duration or time through the corridor to understand with the signal at this location, how much spillback does it create?
Yeah, because that's like, I mean, I'm there pretty much every morning, well, Monday through Friday with my grandson going to school. And I'm thinking you could maybe get two, 3 cars in that short distance between the 3-way and that light now. Yes, I agree that the safety of our children is really, really important. I would like to see the study and see what the impact would be personally, but I'm one person.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm with you, it's not. There's a point of diminishing returns, right, where money spent in safety at other areas might make children more safe, or may, you know what I mean, like there's. Is a flashing light a flashing light a flashing light, or is there a way to study it and say that money is best spent here for safety reasons? You know, knowing
That's a
that,
different study.
Yeah.
well, right, but I mean, that's the thing, is we're going with best practices for right now in this area, but I mean, the last incident that we had was on Edie Road, and we, you know, and so again, we know we've got a lot of work to do on that as well, so I'm worried that we're gonna spend money on it without really knowing how much more safe it makes.
Well,
that crossing.
I don't disagree in a priority conversation based on data. I think that's 100% spot on. I think tonight we're just talking about standards.
100%, yeah, that's, yeah.
I'm just thinking, because there's no way to get out of the Old Town area unless you go out Oregon Street, that you're not going to be impacted by a school zone. And with the number of businesses that are on that, although a lot of them are beauty businesses right now, but
No, there's Oregon, there's Langer Farms.
yeah, going out that way.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'd be interested in what the operational analysis says afterwards, but I'm definitely all for the safety.
The question I would just ask or say would be, would a study motivate Ken Beck to say, oh yeah, it impacts things? Would a study change your mind on spending the money to do this project? If the project spending money on a study with
Assuming it's a priority.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would you take that information? If you might not do the safety project because of a study, then okay, do the study, but there's no study that's gonna change my opinion on doing the project.
I guess my rationale for it is to be able to articulate the rationale for other pockets of the business community in general. Or other people who are questioning while it's there, because then we're fully loaded with the information that we can go out to them with.
You just take it to the extreme and you say, yeah, it's gonna have a massive impact, or it's gonna have no impact. That should change, I mean, it would change my vote, certainly, right? If it was to the extreme, and so I'm not arguing.
That's why I'm asking, if it would change your opinion on doing the project or not, then there could be some value in doing the study. If it wouldn't, like in my position, at
Okay,
least it left.
okay.
I think, well, Dan, did you have any thoughts on?
Not regarding this, just in general, I mean, I think that we met because of what was happening in front of Archer Glen. And these pedestrian hybrid beacons seem to be so much more expensive than the rapid flashing ones that we don't really have an immediate solution to what is going on right now. And I realize that spending money for the rapid and then to replace them later with something is not ideal, but like, we're currently having problems with the traffic right now, and the safety of the kids. And so if we wait till we have this money, like what happens in this interim time, because what I would.
Let me ask this, so what about those cameras that we're gonna get that we can move around the city? I mean, how many cameras can we buy for $600,000?
Well, that's gonna catch people speeding through, but that's not gonna catch the person who's hitting the crossing guard because they're not paying attention.
But we don't have people actually hitting crossing guards, but we do have people speeding through there, and I think that's.
Well, we had people almost hit crossing.
Yeah, they're
Oh.
going through people who are holding the signs.
Yeah,
it's-
they're in the middle of the road and they're still going through
In
there.
Trimble, twice I was out there because we had issues where people almost say crossing.
So, but do you think that if we had those ticketing things there, do you think that would make people drive slower or more carefully, or?
It's a tool for sure.
It's a tool, but we're not putting one at every, that's meant to be moved around to deal with.
Right, I know, I'm just wondering if, yeah, 600,000 would
Well,
slow that traffic down to solve the problem in a different way.
I think there's two parts to this. I think, let's just set the money aside for a second. I think there's agreement this is a better solution, sans understanding impacts. I think Dan brings up a great point. Is there something we can do in the short term to address an issue that's happening right now? I think that's a great point. I think we need to keep those two things separate, right? Because, like, as soon as you said that, I was thinking, when you go to the coast and they don't want to have a flagger, they have those temporary lights, are there other, widen our scope, are there other solutions we could do on a temporary basis? Have you ever seen, like, there's one in Pacific City now when you go to Tierra del Mar that it reduces to one lane because of a landslide. There's no flaggers, but they have this automated system that does that. Maybe there's another temporary solution that we could do, because I don't think we've really talked about that. Yeah.
I think that the traffic safety committee, one of the bigger complaints they get is through our school zones.
Yeah.
I don't have that data, but I'm just in my envisioning, because I just heard so many complaints from the community on school zones. So this is pretty important to me.
We can keep this would qualify for safe routes to school, right?
Yeah.
Ran through that program.
Keep applying for that.
Per year, one of those cubes, about 72,000.
Ray, I
That's-
had a question for you. Are you guys still gonna have, no matter what the city does, you guys still gonna have crossing guards?
Yeah, we will. We're still gonna assist our kids through those intersections.
So even if you had a headlight at every, you're still gonna have.
Our plan is to still assist kids through those, especially at our university, which is where we're crossing.
Which I think is great.
I'm not
Adults out there.
an expert, but we're already stopping traffic during the school day. So I think during the school day is probably our safest, or during, when kids are being dropped off and picked up, because we have crossing guards there, it's probably safer right now. It's right after that, right before it, I think, where the value comes in for these.
I'm trying to understand, so your concern is for the businesses trying to get to work?
I'm
or-
just wanting to understand the impact when we do this. I think we should do this.
Yeah.
Please know that.
Yeah.
But I think having what the impact to the community is going to be, the business community, people trying to get to
To
where
work or.
they get to the other
shopping.
schools. Yeah, I think it's important.
Yeah.
We could have a food truck, Keith, right there. They can get food. While they're-
Good job.
Yeah.
Good figure. I'm not taking the bait.
But Tim, you said something interesting there, though, that, it's the before the guards get out and it's the after, is the reason they're speeding through because there's not a flashing light, or are they not, because initially I thought you were saying that it was like, well, they're seeing the guards, but they're ignoring them.
Well, that's happened for sure.
Right, and
We
so,
also have after-school sports, I don't think you guys have crossing guards, for extracurrurcular
but not at the
activities.
middle, I mean, not at the elementary, in fact, I don't think the middle school even has after-school services. Do they? I don't.
Those fields get used.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, but they're not like school sports, they're like
It's still.
soccer, okay, right, okay, yeah. Okay, but so, because again, I'm not against safe kids, I'm just wanting to know, are we actually solving the problem with, is it distracted drivers, is it speed, are speed bumps gonna do it, you know what I mean, like, again, are we just throwing some lights up there that are,
Your traffic safety committee and they, cause they're the ones with, the engineers are at their meetings and is it something that, are they gonna bringing this forward as a suggestion, a recommendation, or is it through you? Are we getting their recommendation?
We presented the initial with the rectangular, and they were overall supportive of it. And then I did present the changes that was suggested, and there wasn't any objection per se in regards to that. But definitely moving forward, creating a policy through the TSP update, I think that is the next step so that we can bring closure to this, because we've analyzed all of the elementary schools. We did it for Littleton, as well as we did the Safe Routes to School Action Plan, and then these three. Just to, identify that we've done the homework. And then we're finding that if we want something like the pedestrian hybrid, that there needs to be some additional analysis, operational analysis. Let's just say in a year's time, if development was happening at the intersection of Pine and Sunset, that could also interfere with that particular intersection and also the rapid flashing or the
Yeah.
half signal that's being proposed in front of the school. So it really does depend on when it is that we would find funding and then do the analysis to see exactly what's needed.
So. I'm gonna make a proposal and go around the room, but before I do that. If, you pull open the traffic engineering handbook and they have the rapid flasher, that's the standard, right? Would you agree from an engineering point of view, study point of view, that this is an enhanced standard? This is probably safer than a rapid flasher?
Absolutely, yeah,
Okay.
from a pedestrian crossing perspective or kids crossing the street, yes, because it's a red indication, you have to stop.
Yeah, see, that's where my brain is like, there is a standard out there, but this is an enhanced standard. I think from a policy point of view, so I think there's three issues. From a policy point of view, I just want to poll council and see where they're at on making this our standard, and then I want to have a quick conversation about, to Dan's point, what do we do in the short term? Because we don't have the money to go do this stuff right away, so what do we do in the short term? And the third thing is budgets, but I'm just kind of going around the room from a policy point of view. Kim?
Yeah, I'm in favor.
I can't divorce it from budget, though. I would love to have the Rolls Royce of solutions, but does it make sense for it to be the standard throughout Sherwood? I don't know I can say that. I mean, I guess in theory, I would love it, right? I don't know that we have the money to be able to do
Well,
that.
Another conversation.
No, I know.
it's like everything else. We put something together, we get that initial engineering, this is where our standards are, and then we go after grant money. Like we do.
Okay,
Yeah.
I know, I haven't, all I've heard is, let's do this, it's enhanced. I've never heard it makes it this much safer or any of that stuff. And so I'm just, yeah, it's fine. It's great.
I don't know that it actually makes stuff safer, so.
Traffic engineers just said it does.
No, I understand, but how, is it
What
10
percentage
times
is
safer?
safer, one kid or 10 kids?
Well, yeah, I mean. well,
Okay to
the
lose one,
difference-
but not okay to lose 10?
Well, no, but Kim, there's no amount of dollars we can spend that will make no traffic problems anywhere, right? And so I have to, it's as harsh as it sounds, I've got to look at it and go, okay, well, with the limited money that we have, is this the best use of it for making the kids safe, right? And so for me to divorce the solution from the price seems disingenuous, because I'm saying, yeah, if I had all the money in the world, I would put these at every corner, right? And make them flash and stuff like, you know what I mean? But I don't have that. And so if you're saying yes, in a theoretical sense, great.
I think we have lots of stuff in our TSP that we don't have funding for.
Great.
We have, I mean, if you add it all up, there's no way we'll ever do
Never
all
get
those
it all.
projects.
Yeah.
But we have standards, so when the funding opportunities do come up, we're there and we can apply, right? That's the way I look at it.
Okay.
But so you're okay, maybe on the fence?
Yeah, if it'll help us get money for it, then great.
Dan?
I think that for new school zones, this would make sense, because I think the funding would be different for that. For the existing school zones, I don't know that this is the right policy currently, or maybe it's like a two-part policy for it. Because again, we have these immediate concerns and trying to put these in however many years from now. I don't know that that really solves what we're looking to do.
Yeah, and that's kind of where we got to. It's like, we have a policy, but we gotta figure out something short term. It's kind of where I agree with you on that.
So,
Yeah. Okay, Kim, or sorry, Renee?
I'm in the same bucket as what Dan just said. I mean, I think it's a good gold standard to have. As what's the immediacy, and then I want to know the data behind what the impact will be.
The study piece.
The study piece.
Yeah, this,
So it sounds like,
I'll say one thing.
yeah,
I mean, the recommendation currently is the rectangular rapid flashing beacons, is that correct?
The original was,
But just in general for like statewide, is that true?
yeah, but it's not just a blanket statement, it's based on the average daily travel of vehicles on the road, the number of lanes, the crossing distance, there's a number of attributes that feed in to the analysis that then spit out the recommendation for the roads we're talking about. When you do that, the recommendation originally was the RRFB, the rectangular.
Cause that makes more sense with policy, like it's not just one for any school, I guess, to have it. Different criteria for different signals.
I think the idea of having it. Are you saying like there might be a school that could qualify that would be better suited for the other one?
Right, well, like based on the information that I've learned from this, like two schools at Archer Glen and Hawksview, it would just be the rectangular rapid flashing one. That is the standard that is set for those roads currently. And if we built a school somewhere else that had 4 lanes of traffic and speed was higher, obviously putting something in that was more appropriate for that roadway I would be in agreement with, so.
Is that just what you said? When you said the studies on these roads, they came up with the
Rectangular rapid flashing beacon originally, but again, what we heard was, we don't think that that device is safe enough. It provides enough protection for people crossing. We want something
more
more.
importantly, grade schoolers. So these are young people that will be going to these schools, all hours of the day. Obviously, at the beginning of school, in the school, but also activities after the school, so. Yeah, I think this is the best,
And I don't think we just have to do the minimum that's.
and if we are unsuccessful in finding funding sources and there's a little, then, I'm gonna be motivated to say. Something is better than nothing, on a temporary basis, but, I've never been a fan of these. Things that are still overpriced, these flashing yellow things, I think they're.
isn't that what we had at Trimble?
We don't have anything at
No, there
Timberell.
was
We
nothing.
didn't have any there.
So maybe the policy could be this with a subset in absence of funding for this, we could potentially look at.
Would there be time parameters on that though, as well?
I think, this is my opinion, this is obviously safer, but to Dan's point, we have a problem now, right? So I would love to see, I don't know, are there temporary options? Are there other things we could be doing to improve the safety in the short term?
Yeah, no. I mean. My biggest concern is I agree with everybody on the red lights. They're awesome. That's the best probably out there, safest. I'm concerned about the price tag. And I'm concerned about the traffic calming money that we put away every year. And I know there's an issue at Archer Glen out there that I know the rapid flashers would help out right today. Even though it might take us to a little while to budget for it and get it in, but there's tools that's been recommended that we could be using today with the PED lights as the end goal to be able to apply for safe routes to school money for some of these places. And if we were to get a grant, we could actually take the rapid flashing lights out and put them someplace else in the county, if that's what the directive wants to work. So there's some.
The contractors that want you to buy brand new ones. That doesn't make sense.
I think that probably that 50 to 100,000 is you got your upgrades to your ADA crosswalks and everything into that, right? So I didn't look into all the costs.
Yeah, I mean, if money's no obstacle in Bavaria, when I was traveling there, they had cement things that came up out of the ground to protect pedestrian right of way. Yeah, so I was gonna say, so, you know, if we've got price, we keep every kid safe if we create it, you know what I mean? And so there's somewhere between that and, you know, fluorescent uniforms and lights and flags and, you know, there might be other stuff that we could do immediately, you know.
I guess that's like, if we have this policy as this is what we would like to try to achieve
Yeah.
on new schools, or even if we have the money at the time to do them on existing schools, but somewhere else in that policy that says, but if there's an immediate need,
New development,
new development on this,
It's not
maybe?
just- not just schools.
What's Craig's point about, we do one, then we can move it around.
Yeah,
You could do, I mean, right away, if you said, where's the spot we need this, I'd tell you Archer Glen. You already have yellow lights and you have traffic, control on Sherwood Boulevard, but Archer Glen is the mid-block crossing needs something needs to be done.
So do we need that in the policy to be able to have,
No.
do something, and we can have this policy and still know we can do more immediate things?
can we, those lights, is it legal for us to change them from flashing yellow lights to red and blue lights? You can't do that?
I can't use it.
Very cherries. So I think what I'm hearing is, because we do have 3 more agenda items. Is we need a policy for the gold standard, use the terminology. But a subset of that is what we do to deal with immediate issues, which might be the flashers. In a reuse policy, and we need to look at traffic impact. Does that, everybody agree with that?
Yeah.
Right?
Everything but the traffic impact.
Joy, does that give you marching orders?
I said everything but the traffic impact.
Yeah.
It's nothing, I mean, Old Town is busy. It'll always be busy. It's not gonna change, and there's no way of improving the busyness. Or reducing the busyness other than using alternative routes. Just the nature, we're not widening roads.
And right now, I mean, those traffic is already stopping on that road
Yeah,
with the half light and crossing guard, so.
and and the school bus activity.
Yeah.
And all the parents, I mean, it's a traffic jam for an hour and a half every morning and afternoon.
Yeah. So our amazing partners at the school system, what do you think?
I think all this sounds amazing. All of these options are gonna support our students and we're really grateful for the care. And we're so grateful that you guys are on board to support us. We're really thankful for the time and energy.
Awesome. Thank
Only
you.
we could do it all tomorrow.
All money.
Okay, right?
All right. So you want to move on to, you got your marching orders of TSP? Thank
Yeah.
you.
Thank you.
Conversation.
All of it.
Pass it down.
I'm gonna have to keep that piece of paper for 10 years now.
Binder.
Shelf, I just shoveled my notes in from at the end of the year. Oh, 6 months old, recycle.
No, I'm gonna give it to Cynthia, but I'm gonna put this to you.
Evil.
That's what's required. I don't know. No.
They're only for time and then you can recycle them. You should just ask her what the time is. Yeah. Like I don't have my stuff from 9 years ago. I think the year on this. Silly to spell that out for us.
I should use the location on that, yeah. Because I have every single thing, so. It was very clear, but thanks.
Saturday, so quick.
Oh, we're going to the game.
Yeah, zoomed in weird.
Yeah.
No, I can,
And something.
You could have if I brought it up before, but I'm doing this work. My buddy John, Larry. The attendance ticket. So we're on the 40-yard line. Well,
Up and down. I'd like to write you do it. Okay, there you
Okay,
go.
perfect.
Yeah,
Thank
right.
you.
Oh, something about the college.
but I had the option of getting a similar ticket.
So TSP, performance measures.
Going.
So Phil Hiddleston will lead us in regards to this very important discussion as far as next steps.
It's a good evening, everyone.
It is exciting.
It is exciting. We all love report cards, don't we? Especially when they come home. This evening, first of all, I appreciate you making time for us to come and meet with you. This is the beginning of a conversation. We're not looking for any decisions tonight. It's mostly us beginning the process of helping you understand what performance measures are, how we as a community need them and how we use them, and in what kind of circumstances. Ultimately, we'll come back to you a couple more times in this conversation, eventually seeking your approval of specific performance measures that would apply to your TSP, and then even extend further into your review of land use applications, development applications. So it has at least two purposes in that regard. We have no community comments, so we're really just going to focus on getting through the background of what performance measures are, get to a point where we're talking about your current measures, and then think a little bit out loud with each other about what additional measures we might consider as a part of the TSP process. And that at the very end, Joy and I'll give you a very brief update on where we are with respect to the TSP update schedule. So in terms of the background on performance measures, I've tried to keep this pretty high level in order to get through it in a relatively short amount of time. What you're seeing on the screen are phrases, words, terms that have been initially cobbled together in an effort to draft a first draft of the city's transportation system vision. It will be a vision that will be documented in the TSP. They're currently just words and phrases because we're in the process of going from a first draft to a second draft. We produced the first draft, shared it with our citizen and our advisory committee members, and have received feedback from them, and we're now working through that feedback. But there are some important words up here that you're going to see me repeat a couple of times, and so I'll just highlight them. When we ask, I wish that banner wasn't there, because what the slide title would say, Sherwood's Draft Transportation Vision. So what is the transportation system? It's these things. It's, in your minds, it's safe, it's efficient, it's reliable, it's cost effective, kind of the descriptors or the characteristics of the system. It includes many modes, and it's supposed to do things like meet the growing needs of the community, sustainably complement your adjacent land uses, and what are the outcomes that you're trying to achieve with your transportation system? That your businesses and your neighborhoods are thriving, that anyone of any age and any ability
can travel in Sherwood safely, comfortably to meet their daily needs. We know that that's a rendition of the vision. We're going to wordsmith this for a long time to come. But I want you to hold on to that first line of text that you see there, because that's what I'll be coming back to. The notion is that that question in the middle of the slide is kind of what this distills down to, is if we are only interested in one subject in school, then why measure all the other subjects, right? But if we're more interested in a more well-rounded, I'll call it, education, then you want to measure across each of those subjects to see that students are learning and progressing as you desire them to. So again, the notion here is within the framework of transportation, what you're going to learn from me relatively quickly is that we really don't use very many measures, not only here in Sherwood, but in Washington County, Tualatin, Bend, Oregon, the state of Oregon, and even well beyond the borders of Oregon. There aren't very many measures used today in transportation to evaluate the effectiveness of the system. But times are changing. And here in Oregon, the state is mandating to local agencies that you have more than one performance measure.
What's the mandate? Two?
Two, correct. One can continue to be focused on automobiles.
I've got, I just noticed, yeah, is it just going from one to two, or is it a?
Yeah.
Is it a suite of things? So
Yeah.
I always want to know what the folks in Salem are requiring of us,
Yeah.
and then if we can go beyond that or not.
Yep. So the requirement is two. One can be focused on automobiles. The other must not be focused on automobiles. Is basic way of understanding it. And so here, all I'm really trying to show us collectively is the fact that if you simply think of the transportation system is everything that moves motor vehicles and then everything that moves everything else, pedestrians and bicycles, in other words, we don't have measures for how well are we doing in accommodating pedestrians who want to walk or bicyclists who want to ride. We do a fair job of how are we doing moving our freight vehicles, how are we doing moving our transit vehicles, because they share the same roads as our motor vehicles. And that's why they get an X, that's why they have a standard, is because they use our roadways to drive on.
I'm just curious, that they'll choose two things and, based on where we are, cars are capped to be part of that, but transit is something we don't control. Right, and I just recently, Craig, we're gonna have to schedule a work session to talk about this, but have you been talking to TriMet about their cuts that they're proposing? Cause they're talking about severely cutting lines into Sherwood right now.
Yeah, well, TriMet is on our technical advisory committee. And so we're in close communication with them throughout your TSP update process. And we are very much aware of the fact that these cuts are coming. It's not an if, it's a when question. Yeah, and it's happening, and it's hard to say that out loud, but it's a fact. Yeah.
Okay, so,
I think there's a meeting next week that all elected officials can attend, Zoom meeting.
yeah,
So you're probably familiar with all of this, but so I'm going to walk through it very quickly. Currently in Sherwood, two measures. You have a motor vehicle volume to capacity measure, and the other one is a motor vehicle level of service. The thresholds that you see below apply to each of those measures. So here if we were looking at Highway 99 and at the intersection with Charlton Sherwood Road, it has a theoretical capacity. And we can estimate what that is, and then we can measure the volume of traffic that's going through there. That's the volume to the capacity, it's a ratio. As that ratio gets close to 1 or 100%, it's essentially saying the system is full. when you experience a nearly full system, what you find is longer and longer delays, longer and longer queues, frustrated motorists, and a breakdown in the way the system is functioning. So avoiding operating at 100% capacity is something that most communities strive for. Yeah.
So Metro's policy is that we overuse our roads.
So Metro adopted that 110% or 1.1 V over C ratio in its planning work, which is to say we can,
Surprised they adopted it at such a low number.
yeah.
But they don't have any authority to enforce that on us.
What Metro has some authority over is the allocation of federal funding to transportation. And
For strings.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. So this chart on the left was simply to kind of show you your standard for volume to capacity is 85%. So when you find that something is going above 85% full, you're saying, oop, that's above our standard. We need to do something. Meanwhile, ODOT and the county would say, well, we're not really worried about it until it gets to 99% full. And that's how these thresholds work. So you would be acting more quickly or earlier than other agencies would on their facilities in your community. Yeah.
Are we over?
We're smarter.
That's, I guess, the question.
Well, we have a smaller purse though. Right?
The reason for the other performance measure, level of service on the right-hand side is frankly to kind of see the difference between how a roadway operates versus how an intersection operates. And so you use the level of service really when you focus on an intersection. Is the intersection working or not working? And you see that it uses grades like our report cards use, A through F. And you've said that D or E level of service is your threshold that has to be met. Otherwise, that intersection is considered deficient and some kind of improvement is needed. And that's a process that you've used for quite some time.
And part of the comedy of all of this is so much of it we don't control. The county roads, the state roads,
Right.
most intersections are on county roads or state roads.
10 turn off 99 Sunset, we don't control that, for instance.
So so that's just my humor.
Yeah. And what I'm really highlighting here for us is I try and keep us moving through this is kind of that fundamental question. Well, what happens when your thresholds are not being met, right? So first of all, when an applicant who wants to develop in Sherwood comes and they do their traffic impact study and they identify that something goes above your threshold, that fundamentally is defined as a deficiency. And most often you're going to say it's deficient. You've made it deficient. You fix it, a mitigation. And so for roadways and intersections, these are the kinds of mitigations that commonly become recommendations or requirements for those developments as they move forward. This is standard practice here in Sherwood, but it's standard practice throughout the state of Oregon, frankly, throughout the United States. This is a very, very common practice, a very common perspective. Unfortunately, there's both intended and unintended consequences that come about from all of this. The intended consequence is that, well, we've got to make the street wider in order to create more capacity, or we have to make the intersection bigger to provide the necessary capacity. These are all expected outcomes, as is the notion that by doing this, traffic moves better, right? The unintended consequences, and which is part of what's driving the state to create this mandate, is the bigger our streets get, the more likely they become barriers to this neighborhood being connected to that neighborhood, or this neighborhood being able to connect to the commercial area of the community. Crossings become longer. The longer the crossing is, the more exposure the pedestrian has to motorists doing something bad, right? And finally, facilities themselves become more stressful, primarily to the most vulnerable users, pedestrians and bicyclists. Yes.
I would argue there's another intended consequence, because we always tend to think in terms of improving capacity. There's sometimes when we need to think about how do we move that capacity, right? And to use different roads, and Sunset is a big example for me, you know, especially as the cut through traffic during construction was using that, and it was backed up all the way from 99 past Woodhaven, right? Or Pinehurst. Pinehurst. So sometimes,
Yeah.
so sometimes our goal is not necessarily let's get more traffic down the road. The goal is how do we offload that? How do we encourage other routes?
Right, right. Yeah, and then, you know, I'm gonna go on a brief tangent, but that's one of the values of a grid network of streets, is you've inherently created redundancy. You've given, in this case, motorists many options for how to get from point A to point B. Sherwood's challenged with some things like topography and natural features that limit our grid network, and so we have to find other solutions. So this all kind of sets up the conversation that we're starting this evening with you, and that's the notion of what's important to you, and if it's important, how can we help you by identifying ways of measuring it, right? I know from my time working with all of you already how important it is that people in your community feel safe and comfortable and encouraged to walk and bike. It's been in every conversation that we've had with the Citizen Advisory Committee and with our technical committee as well. So what we're looking for are opportunities to bring measures that focus on pedestrians and bicyclists as a way of balancing your ability to create a holistic multimodal transportation system. That's the outcome that we're striving for, but we need measures to help us get there for a variety of reasons. What you're seeing here is
Is it also measures, but also design concepts, or is that part of the measures?
so
Because the intersections, you know, you can expand capacity of intersections, and you can do it much better by having bump outs and things to help keep safety in check and still expand capacity. If you don't do those bump outs, then you're creating a greater hazard.
yeah.
So I'm just like, there's different tools, not just.
Yes, agreed. And what we find, I think this relates a little bit to what you're saying, is what we find is that we have collectively competing objectives. We want to move traffic quickly, but we want things to be safe for pedestrians and bicyclists. And so how do we balance those competing objectives? Part of the way we do that is through the development of measures and then the appropriate application or use of them. Yeah.
And I apologize for chiming in, but I'm also on the committee. Moving vehicles quickly for me isn't a phrase I like to use. I prefer predictably.
Mhm. I like that too.
So that people can predict that to be able to get from point A to point B is whatever. If they're going 20 miles an hour, I don't care, it's predictable. If they're going 35, okay, that's predictable. I don't need a freeway. Or, you know, I don't want to create risk by making it go faster, you know, I drive like a grandpa in town, I want everybody else to do the same thing.
Well, going back to how compact and dense we are, a 5 mile an hour, a 10 mile an hour difference in speed doesn't really change
Add up to much.
your outcome when you're just commuting low.
Yeah, yeah.
And I would say that I only hear negative things about car traffic, and it's usually 12th and Sherwood Road or 99, which we don't have a lot of control over. And I only hear positive things about the trails and the multimodal stuff. And so, but when you say we need ways to measure that, are the best ways to measure that? The only complaint I ever hear is, I wish you would connect them all. And I say, well, there's a plan and we're getting, you know, blah, blah, blah. But are you saying that that's something that you need to measure, of like how many connected feet of, I don't know what, like, how many people go down them, or what's the right measurement on that?
Yeah, well, I don't have the answer to that
Okay.
question tonight. I don't know
Okay.
right yet. But you've already given me a couple of great segues, and it kind of
Okay.
ties to the slide as well. One measure we could use is the notion of completeness, right?
Yeah.
If we have 100% of our bicycle network connected,
Mhm.
that's a good thing.
Yeah.
And if 100% of our network covers the entire city, we've got an ideal bicycle system,
Right,
right?
yeah,
So there's two kind of closely related measures that we could
yeah.
use.
Well, I was just, yeah, a couple of days ago, I was talking to somebody over on Edie Road area or whatever, and they said, yeah, I've been living here for 10 years and they keep saying they're gonna connect into, and I would love to have a pedestrian. I say, well, there's plan, you know, anyway, sorry, you were gonna ask?
Well, I kind of building on what you were saying, because, you know, the measures and the KPIs, whatever you want to call them. How does that translate into standards? Because you touched on this briefly, because if a new development's going in, we want that standard in, yes, we need trails, and by the way, it's got to connect into our wider trail system.
Right.
You know, and how does that play into our standards? How enforceable are they? Because we have other forces out there
Yeah,
competing against that kind of stuff.
I love your questions because you're just helping me tell you what I want to tell you. This is great. So some of the measures that we may propose during the TSP process could ultimately become standards, meaning something you choose to adopt. Others we propose, you're going to say, throw that one away. And yet others, you're going to say, use it during the TSP process, but don't expect us to make it a standard. All of those options are very acceptable options, okay? So there will come a point where you will need to adopt as a standard one of these performance measures that is focused on something other than the automobile. That's a given. Which one it is, I don't know yet.
Okay.
All right. That's why I want to have more conversations with you. We need to do more noodling on this, and then come to you with good ideas and let you weigh in on that.
With these measures, don't take this the wrong way, but in general, I hate consultants.
That's
And
He hates spending money on consultants. It's not.
I understand the value in in cases like here, others I don't see the value, but, in these measures, and I'm not saying what I do or not, but what I want to hear back is the frequency in which we must update our status of these things, and then the means to get the measured result. So i.e., if we had to spend $50,000 every year to update where we're at in the global realm of these measures, I would be concerned.
Well, you'd want to know about it before you said yes or no.
Yes, I want to know the frequency and the estimated cost, and you know, if some things are very organic and very easy,
Yep.
or very not and not.
Yeah, let me try and make this really concrete to that point. Let's say you think the notion of system completeness, a complete bicycle network or complete pedestrian network, is a good measure. Well, the good news is that data already exists. Much of it has been compiled, in fact, for you by ODOT, so you didn't even have to pay for it. The ongoing cost is going to be to keep your GIS database up to date. So a developer builds a sidewalk, put the new sidewalk in the GIS database. That's relatively low cost, right? But now you've got a way of knowing what you've have, an inventory, and a way to update it very cost effectively. And therefore a way to report your progress toward a 100% complete pedestrian system. So that's a pretty doggone low cost approach.
Well, doesn't it also, Keith, follow the same logic of the lights that we just talked about? It makes us grant applicable, like we can go out for grants if we say.
Yes, so I'm not saying the things I love data. I also, I'm one of those, my personality, whatever, I love information. But I also want to be mindful of a recurring cost. burden because I know the Oregon way is not a good way,
It used to be that way.
for operating cities.
How did, so I have a question, well, first of all, how long, when's the last time we did our TSP update?
12 years ago, 12,
12 years
13.
ago.
12 or 13 years ago.
So we survived, you know, and we had a lot of things that came up and we changed things. But I guess if we pick, let's say we pick cars and bikes, right? Because I kind of feel like that's where we're leaning here. Is the state also mandating certain standards when it comes to bikes or transit or whatever? Or are we pretty much free to come up with, here's how we're doing bikes?
I'm gonna say it's much more the latter. You're free to make these decisions at the local level. ODOT
Today?
ODOT has invested a significant amount of money collecting the data to give you an inventory of your pedestrian bicycle system. They're of course hoping that you'll use that data. But they're not here to mandate how you use the data or how you measure good, bad, or indifferent. They're waiting for you to make that decision.
But there is
Go ahead.
typical standards in regards to what does a bike path look like or bike lane looks like. So there are those standards that we do still have to apply as far as engineering. Yeah.
The example that comes to mind, and I'm struggling for a good one, but I know we'll run into one because there's always surprises, but you have a bike trail, you have a trail that goes through a green space, right? Or follows a stream corridor and it runs parallel to a road. But the state comes out and say, you still have to put a bike lane on that road. So it's those types of things that I'm just, that's where the question came from, how much
How
flexibility.
much of a separation is allowed?
Yeah. I do know that, like the Ice Age Tonkin, Trail is a regional trail that goes through Oregon and Tualatin Sherwood Road, where we have a multi-use sidewalk, as an exception, you know, to consider it as a regional trail, but it's also a sidewalk. And it's part of the system that was built. So there is that flexibility aspect of it.
Is there a difference between, so we talked about the bikes part of it. I've seen people use bikes for transportation and then also for recreation. Same thing with, I see people walking to Old Town and I see people running for enjoyment, right? But you know what I mean? And so, right, but they kind of are different, right? If I'm gonna walk to get to the store, I want the most direct route. If I'm walking to go through the green space, that's a different problem I'm trying to solve, right? Is it all, that's what I'm asking. Is it all the same?
Biking, or is it?
Yeah, or because if I'm biking to get to work, that's different than I'm biking for leisure or for, you know, for exercise or something like that. So I'm just asking, are we saying the transportation plan is about utilitarianism? I am getting
Point A to point
point A to point B most efficient way possible, or is it, you know, hey, I want to be able to provide recreational opportunities for the citizens to run and hike and all that other stuff?
I'm gonna tell you after having done 50 of these, that it's really up to you.
Okay.
You can say, the council of this city, you can say our TSP is utilitarian. Or you can say it's more than utilitarian, however you define what more than
Okay, all right.
utilitarian, yeah.
But then there's the dilemma in regards to, is a soft trail equivalent to a paved trail, you know?
Yeah.
So, and also funding sources too, you know, as far as if you want federal money, the paved would get funding versus the soft would be under the recreation. And there's
Yeah.
different funding sources for the different type of use.
Classify all of our trails as linear parks, so we can get park funding.
Exactly. So it is about follow the money aspect of it.
And when you say we have to have the state requirement, one other mode besides automobiles,
Not mode,
I mean,
measure.
measure.
Yeah.
So whether that be bicycle, is there a plus or minus to having more than two?
Well, I'm
That,
gonna use this to start to help answer that question.
Okay.
All right?
Like how we just lead into.
Yeah,
the
you,
next thing.
yeah, this is terrific.
For sure, yeah.
And so staff has done a nice job of kind of coaching me that you tend to like to know, well, what are others doing, right? It's a good question, and so keep asking that one. You've heard me say this before, but we're all pioneers, right? Right now, what you're doing with your TSP update is pioneering. There are 3, 4, 5 other agencies that are in the same place at the same time as you, but you're all at the forefront. 2 others are Clackamas County and the city of Milwaukee. Milwaukee's ahead of all of us, and they're still not even to the point of adoption. So they've yet to really broach this hard subject. But
Don't tell Travis that, please, because that's already too big out there.
it's too big, yeah. But here's a glimpse at what these 2 agencies are thinking with regard to performance measures. On the multimodal side, both of them are looking at the notion of system completeness, and they're looking at it for both modes, pedestrian and bicyclists. So arguably two measures, one for each of those modes, in addition to the motor vehicle, or in this slide, it's called other. Both of them are using volume to capacity, which is what you use and many other agencies here in Oregon as well for the motor vehicle side. So that's what's happening in your neighborhood. That's a repeat of what you've seen before. It was just meant to be a reminder. For those who may have seen this presentation before this evening, this was created simply as an opportunity to give you an example or a couple of examples of how you could put measures together to address what the state is requiring you to do, but also to achieve meaningful outcomes that your own community is looking for.
and we're not to a point where we're asking you to pick a package.
No.
Again, these are just examples on how we can put them together.
Yeah, yeah, so these.
You said this, but for me, the most important thing is those measures turn into standards.
They become standards. Yes, yeah, yeah. And so I'd really leave this more for you in terms of like to reflect on or as a homework assignment. Again, as Joyce said, this is not here for you to make a decision. We're going with package 3. That's not the question. It's to illustrate, again, a way in which you marry auto and non-auto measures and the kinds of things that it can ultimately consider or influence, which is on the far right-hand side.
And there's nothing to prevent us from having measures in those other categories, right?
Correct. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, you could have a gazillion measures. Not that I'm
Would
promoting.
you recommend that?
No.
Okay, I didn't think so.
No, I think, you know, my free advice is prudence at this stage, since we're all pioneering together, is good. Let's pick 1 or 2 that we really feel good about, exercise them for a while, learn from that, and then decide later. And later in my mind is years from now, not a year after you've adopted your TSP.
Like defensive in nature, like I think of freight, right? Like, you know, Amazon wants to put in a big distribution center. You know, we need standards.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and that the notion of standards is really a big motivator for us to come back and continue the conversation. I put this slide at the end. These are discussion questions. They were really meant to just kind of, in case you hadn't started talking with me, make you talk to me now, but we've already coached or overcome that problem. So again, we're not asking for any decisions here. Do want to know, have I communicated effectively enough that you kind of understand what the challenge is and what you are using and what you might use without telling you every option of what you could use? Are we on relatively firm footing for now? on things like that.
Thumbs up from Renee to Dan. He said to Dan.
Do you have any more kind of questions that would be good for me to try and answer right now? Because I don't want to walk away from the table leaving questions in your minds that we could answer right now.
I'm really excited about this trail completeness as a measure for pedestrian and bicycles for our city. That would be really beneficial. We already have the data, it sounds like, so.
So that would be 3 measures
With the auto.
with auto bike.
Yeah.
Those 3 seem to make the most sense. For our community.
Yeah, and-
Yeah, I was gonna say it's consistently mentioned as one of the reasons people love Sherwood is the trails, so I was.
You pick, if you're only gonna pick 2, I don't know how you pick peds over bikes or bikes over peds in our community.
Yeah, and I think especially what I'd be interested on the trails is if there are low hanging fruit, like, hey, if we put maybe we don't get the federal grant for it, but if we put a soft path between here and here, we're much more complete, right? Or whatever.
Yeah, I'm happy with where we're moving.
Okay.
And look forward to getting the feedback from our groups.
I think we have citizens and technical people working on.
Yeah, so are we.
I'm happy to, I think the only thing I would add is there's those other, I think of them as topic areas. We want to make sure we're not completely ignoring them because there might, like my point about defensive measures and are there measures and standards we need in those other areas?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, well, real briefly, I'm just gonna put this is our current version of our project schedule, kind of giving you a feel of where we are and where we're headed. So we're primarily transitioning from task 5 to task 6. Trying to bring to closure the existing conditions. What's kept us from really bringing that to closure is this notion of what measures are we using to decide how good our system is today. So we're going to finish that work. The next thing up is the future conditions that require some help from Metro, who forecasts the travel demand on your transportation system. We evaluate those changes in traffic demands, find the weaknesses in the system, whatever they turn out to be, and start to compile a list of needs that become projects and ultimately become, through some efforts in task 7, which projects you really think are the strongest ones, the best ones to move forward with, what kind of funding do you have, what qualifies as your cost feasible transportation plan versus the illustrative or ambitious. And then ultimately we document that.
You mentioned Metro. I just want to say one thing there.
Oh, yeah.
We do not blindly follow everything that Metro says. We consistently push back and challenge them. So just keep that in mind as you talked. I know Joy knows this.
Yeah, just best not to reference Metro.
Yeah, we will challenge them all day long.
Okay.
They come out and say things and demand things that they have no statutory authority to do. So just keep that in mind.
Well, it works great in downtown, but not necessarily.
Yeah, one size fits all is the thing.
Just want to mention City of Beaver is starting their TSP update, so if you want to track their website, they're pretty much.
So we're ahead of them.
We're pretty much parallel to them. I think they might have a little bit actually more aggressive schedule, which is good. We can pull information off them.
Awesome. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you all very much.
So I do want to make one announcement. We're actually having a winter transportation open house.
How exciting.
It is, January 28th from 4:30 to 7. We're gonna have stations highlighting the TSP update, the Edie Elward feasibility study, and other capital projects. So, that is something in regards to our public well advertised.
I know on every
onesie to that.
year, a lot of people will show up.
Oh. Here,
What'd you say, Bear?
Sit here.
I'm here.
will be available.
Awesome, thank you. Appreciate it. All right. We have 2 items. I think these will be quick conversations to talk about We have to start a little bit late, that's okay. But it's time to do Craig's review,
No,
or no,
Ryan's.
Brian's review, sorry,
Judge Jack.
and Judge Jack. Some conversation about the process we're gonna use as a council. I've been approached by several people with some ideas. Kim, do you wanna?
I mean, I just threw out the idea of the last review we did for Ryan, we did a 360 with senior leadership, I believe. But then with Ryan's broken here service, here, I personally don't think it's fair right now to do another 360. I think that's not fair to the staff. It's not fair to Ryan. So I would propose that we just, you know, assign 2 people to meet with Ryan, go over his contract, anything he might think needs change, and put a recommendation forward. With Judge Jack in the past, what we've done is just got him in a room and had a conversation. It's not really, we don't have his day-to-day, you know, access to him, but he just kind of fills us in, and I thought we'd just. probably
Just to be able to
do-
get, just to be able to have a conversation, get an update from his perspective of
Yeah.
court.
And then also have the same 2 people, maybe meet with Judge Jack and see if he's looking for any contract changes, and then bring a recommendation forward.
Maybe with Judge Jack, just meet with leadership that works with him all the time in terms of courts and stuff, just find out if they have any feedback, just.
Has he gone rogue and we aren't aware of it?
Yeah, so.
Checking his.
Is there, oh, sorry, go ahead.
And I told Tim I would happily volunteer to be one of those 2 people, unless, you know. somebody else.
Is there a competitor to Judge Jack? I mean, is there anybody else that's wanting to do that, or that, can he just say, hey, I want this COL, or, you know what I mean?
So right now we have pro tem judges in the shoot. If he's ever not available, they make $10 less an hour than he does.
Okay.
Judge Jack right now is at 135 per hour billable time. Pro tems are 125. So
How often does he need a pro temp?
not often.
I know.
You know, generally if we need to cancel court, we'll cancel court.
Yeah.
And we adjust as needed.
And I assume we've looked at the numbers that he's more than paying for.
You know, I won't presume to speak for what the committee might find, but he's done an excellent job in my view, you know, managing the prosecution side. I have no complaints about Judge Jack.
Okay. Yeah, I think we've
Your
always,
inbox is so filled with people complaining about him, not.
One in my 9 years.
yeah, no, I know, it just occurred to me, I'm like, I've never even considered not just re-upping him, but I just didn't know if there's other judges that are around the area that are all.
People, it's a thing. I mean, that's why we have pro tems. They're wanting to get the experience and they wanna get on in a more full-time capacity with our jurisdiction or some other, or they use it as a springboard, you know, for other judgeships.
Yeah.
But he's a contract employee, just like any other, just like Ryan or.
Right.
Or Craig, so I think we need to treat him the same side. You know, we just meet with him, if he's happy, he's happy, and. Well,
Yeah, the only question I had was whether we're happy, meaning, because I was just ignorant of it, right? Are we getting screwed because, you know? Yeah.
So you are not getting screwed.
Yeah, no, I know. Well, that's the thing, is I'm like, oh, is that good? Never hired a judge.
like when we had the whole issue with the county putting the signs in place with the red light cameras.
Yeah.
He was a great partner in helping, like,
Right.
coming up with a plan to fix that.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's been pretty good, so, and it's been a while since we've talked to him, so Kim volunteered, does anyone
I'd
else?
be happy to unless somebody else wants to.
Everybody okay with Kim and Renee?
If there's a third, I'm sure you can do a third, but I'm not interested.
Be happy to help if.
There we go. We have a 2-person committee, not a quorum, awesome. All right, with that, we are adjourned, and give us 5 minutes and we'll get going in the regular session.
A year to go on. We're involved in